Okay, so there's a few different ways we can go about doing this. What's one way that we can go about doing this? Finding the slope in the y-intercept. What's another way we can go about doing it? Plug in a point. You can also plug in a point to each of them, but remember that don't go with the first answer that works, because sometimes, most of the time, they will give you two equations that some of them work. So if there's two that actually work, then you can go to the next point and try the next point. So if you want to plug it in, but that does take a little bit longer. So the way they want you to do it is here's the y and the x. If they want you to find the slope formula, remember, is change in y over change in x. Or you're given this equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what is the change in y from 160 to 3? What's happening? 1 point what? 4. Yeah, plus 1.4. And then from 3 to 5, what's happening? Plus 2, right? So my change in x is adding 2, and my change in y is adding 1.4. What is 1.4 divided by 2? Step 0.7, right? So that's your slope. Which one doesn't have a slope of 0.7? A and B. Then you can either find the y-intercept by taking y equals 0.7x plus b and plugging in a point for x and y and solving, or you could just plug it in. You know only one of these can work. So if you plug it in, let's take a point, let's take a 5, 3, right? And so I'm going to plug in 0.7 times 5, since that's your x coordinate, minus 0.5, and your answer should be 3. What is 0.7 times 5? What's 7 times 5? 35, and so the decimal is going to go between 3.5 minus 0.5. What do you end up getting? 3. Is that the y I should be getting? Yeah. Yes, so that's your answer. If you did it right here, you would get 3.5 plus 0.1, which equals 3.6. That's not what they want you to do. So you can do that to all 4 of them, but make sure you don't just go with the first answer that works. You can also do this right here with the stat edit, put all these in L1, in L2, and find the equation. You would get the exact same thing. So you would get A equals 0.7 and B equals negative 0.5. There's like multiple ways to do all this. Don't do, and especially this class, because you guys are like very, very, very smart. And sometimes you want to make sure you're right, so you do every single way to just check that you're right. Once you get it, if you know that's one you want to check over again, flag it and go to the next question. Because the biggest thing I see with students who are especially super bright students is that you try every single way and check while you're doing it. Go through the test first, then check. Like you shouldn't be putting your head down or anything during the math section, because you can constantly be checking in different ways. Does that make sense? Because you all can get distinguished. It's just kind of checking your work and pacing yourself. So what do these lines mean right here? Absolute value. That means no matter what is in that answer, make it look positive, right? So I know in that answer, I want to either get 1. What else could I get? Negative 1, because those lines just mean make it positive. So I'm going to figure out what could get me 1 and what could get me negative 1. How do I get x by itself? Add 3. And what do you end up getting? 4 and positive 2. So you end up getting x equals 2 and x equals 4. Notice they put negative 2. Trick answer. Or you can plug it in. 4 minus 3 is 1, and 2 minus 3 is negative 1, but those lines make it positive. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So 3 brothers have a combined age of 39. These are the type of questions you're going to see on your SAT. They love these questions. I don't know why. So I have Kevin, I've got Brian, and I've got Christopher. And they all have a combined age of 39, right? What do they want all the answers in? What letter? B. So they want it all in terms of Brian. So they tell us Kevin, and this is worded really weirdly, and it's not going to look like this on your milestone. They mean that Kevin is twice the age of Brian. Oh, sorry, that is in 3. Twice the age of Brian minus 3. So twice the age of Brian minus 3 is what Kevin is. So instead of Kevin, I'm going to plug in 2b minus 3. And then Christopher is half the age of Brian. How do I write that? 0.5 or 1/2. What does of mean? Multiplied by Brian is Christopher. So instead of K, they want you to use 2b minus 3. Instead of Christopher, they want you to use 0.5b. So what's your answer? This is like really weird. On your ACT and SAT, they would have you combine like terms and all that. But so it's substitution. All right, this one. See how there's not really a way that I can plug it in, right? So when there's not a way that I can do that, you're using this right here. So where you do stat, edit, you should put these in L1, these in L1, the other ones in L2. So maybe making sure you understand how to go about doing that. Because you can do that with exponential, linear. And then you click stat, calc, and you would go to linear regression. And so if it's linear, you click linear regression. There's also one that says EXP regression. That means exponential. Yeah.
Okay, so when we do those, like on Saturday, are you gonna go over like when to do linear regression, when to do the first one?
Mm-hmm. Sure. And also these sessions have all your old tests, so it will kind of differentiate the type of questions too. And so they want you to get the equation. So what you end up getting when you get AX plus B, you end up getting A equals 0.06, I think. Sorry, yes. 0.06. And B equals something weird like this, and this won't be on your test. Negative 3.09, it says e to the negative 4. Did anyone try it this way and get that weird answer? And so what e to the negative 4 means, it actually just, that e means move the decimal 4 times back. So they're asking me to go 4 times back. So I get 0.000309. What could I round that number to? It's a little tiny decimal. What number is it close to? 0. You could just round b equals 0. You don't need to put that in this. You won't get something like that on your milestone. So don't get too confused about that. This will be more algebra 2. Then I write my equation. Y equals 0.06x plus 0. You don't really have to do that. And what are they looking for? Well, she will pay on a purchase of $37.99. So what am I going to do with that $37.99? Plug it in. And when you do that, the answer you end up getting is B. And you could also see on this test, it's not going to be on your milestone. On this test, see how it says DOK3? That means it's like a level 3 question. Level 3 is the hardest. So it's not like it's the hardest, it's the most that you have to do multiple steps. So looking at that, you can see that this was DOK2, so it was some steps. This one took a lot of steps. All right, next one. To find if something's a function, what do I know? What can't repeat? X can't repeat. So it says which represents a function. So X can't repeat. What type of test do I do? Vertical. So which two can I eliminate off the bat? C and D. And so make sure you use that elimination tool. Don't be scared to use that because you don't want to read more words than you have to. And then I draw one line and I go beep, and it only hits once. So is it a function? Yes. So you're drawing one line down, and if it hits the function only once, it is a function. If it hits it twice, it's not a function. Next one. All right, this is one where I didn't really teach it to you at the beginning because I am not sure if you're going to see this. But I want to make sure you're overly prepared. This is an Algebra 2 lesson. But I always want to over-prepare you. But it isn't much more than multiplying radicals, which you already know. So it says rationalize the denominator. What's denominator mean? The bottom, it's the number at the bottom, right? And so all you're doing when you rationalize the denominator, you take this and you multiply both by the denominator. And honestly, that's all you have to remember, because from here, you're just simplifying. So when it says rationalize the denominator, we do that so the denominator has no radicals. And you'll see that in a second. So I'm going to take the bottom part first, which is 2 radical 7 times 2 radical 7. How do I multiply radicals? Yeah, multiply the outside. So what's 2 times 2? And then multiply the inside. What's 7 times 7? Cool. What is the square root of 49? 7. So it's 4 times 7, which is what? 20. So now that's your denominator. So the point of rationalizing a denominator is so there's no radicals on the bottom. So if you get a radical on the bottom, you did something incorrect. Then we just do the same thing at the top. So what's 3 times 2? And 14 times 7 ends up being 98. And now we're just reducing. What goes into 98? 14 and 7, because it's right there. What goes into 14? 7 and 2. So who's going to prom already? 7. 7 is going to prom, but who's at prom already? 6 is there already. And then who's in the crib crying? 2. So what is 6 times 7? 42 radicals. I can pause just so I want to make sure. So all we did was multiply the numerators and the denominators by the denominator. Is everyone with me so far? Yeah. I don't have it. All right, last thing I do is I reduce this fraction. What's the biggest number that can go into 42 and 28?
7.
It's actually bigger than 7, but we can still, let's start with 7, just in case it is 14. But if you can always start with a smaller one and keep reducing, but it's more work. Does anyone, what's 42 divided by 14? It ends up being 3. And 28 divided by 14? 2. If anything, I'm preparing you for algebra 2. So if you may see one question like this, you do need to know how to multiply radicals. But I always want to overlook prepare you. Does that make sense? Okay. Next one is slope. So what formula would I use? Yeah, and you're given this formula. So you're given that formula, but they're not going to say, Elijah, time to use slope formula, here it is, right? They're gonna say, okay, you need to know that it's slope. In the last day, you guys only have me one more class period. So we will be going over post-test part 2 and like taking apart that reference sheet and figuring out when will we use each equation. So make sure you label it's x1, y1. I see a lot of people do x1, x2. Remember, it's your y coordinate. x2, y2, and I plug it in. I also see people forget about the negative right here. And then -7 minus -2. What does 2 negatives turn into? Plus sign, right? So what's -13 plus 3? -10. -7 plus 2? And so what do I get? Yeah, so do you guys see, like, I'm giving you, and some of you guys are like, well, there's so many practice tests, and like, I'm kind of discouraged. How many people are kind of discouraged because they're not seeing the scores they want to see? So the point of these is I'm literally like exposing you to every type of wording of the problem. You guys know how to do all these problems. It's just when do we use each thing and what do we do? So the point of me giving these all to you is I'm going to just create a new code on Mastery Connect. And so you can practice and take it again, but wait a couple days. So like take pre-test 1 first because you haven't seen those answers in a while. And then make sure like you know how to do it. So I'm showing this to you first, and then you're going to retake it again on your own. So from now on, besides English, I only want you doing math up until Friday. And if you have homework for other classes and you don't do it, just help me after class. We'll talk about it. And make sure it's not classwork that has to be done during class. If it's actually homework, then come talk to me, because then I'll talk to you. Okay, correlation coefficient, what does that mean? What letter is that referring to? Because we haven't seen that in a little while. Well, it was last week, but someone did correlation coefficient as their lesson. You haven't really presented yet. But what letter is it? Well, it's the same thing right here.
Or Y?
R. Remember R's correlation coefficient?
Wow.
So it goes
A.
yeah. A is your slope.
And I freaking did
Yeah.
that.
Yep, there it is right there. So it's R. So make sure it's -1 means a strong negative correlation. +1 means a strong positive correlation. But when you guys have these calculators, remember how we had to do the diagnostic on? You are
Yes.
going to have to do that because I'm clearing out your calculators. The calculators you get will not have that on if you don't do diagnostic on. So the first thing, when you get your calculator, first thing you should do is turn the diagnostic on. And I have a video on my YouTube. I have on my YouTube channel because I'm so popular, you know. I have a YouTube channel. You guys can look at Ariel and Duck Bones made a step-by-step video of how to do all this, so that way you can watch their video. It's right, and they do it on the calculator. So I put that on there. But anyways, which one can I eliminate? Because I know my correlation coefficients between -1 and 1.
B.
B is 12. We know the correlation coefficient is either -1 to 1. Then, in general, what's happening with these points as I'm going down? Decreasing, right, from 12 to like 4. So would it probably be a positive or a negative correlation? Negative. So which one can I eliminate now? C. Then, since it's so close, you would have to type it into your calculator, and your R ends up being D. And so if you need those steps, you do the same thing as the first question, or the question before, stat, edit, L1, L2. So all the X's would be L1, all the Y's L2. Stat, count, linear regression, and that R is your correlation. And so Unit 5 next Thursday, we're going to go back over any data and statistics. So if that's one you want to go to, make sure you sign up for that.
The next Thursday is
Next
statistics.
Thursday, Unit 5.
Yes.
Yeah. And so slope would be today, linear equation. Whole number that square root of 86 is closest to. Some people said, well, I just put it in my calculator and that's all what number is closest to. Yeah, but this may be a non-calculator question. So if it is, you just square each number, see which one's closest to it. So what's 6 squared? -2 squared? Good, +4. 8 squared? 9 squared. Which one's closest to 86? Does that make sense? I know, this K is so aggravating, right? 2 more classes though. Alright, this one, I didn't go over that much either. I could give you the IXL for it. It was an extra credit IXL. It's called the difference between 2 squares. We went over it once, but I'm going to go over it again. So, see how it's the difference? What does difference mean? Subtracting. And see how these are perfect squares? So, what you have to do is you take the square root of both of them. And so you may have one question like this. That's why I'd rather focus on the main material than maybe one question that you may have. But in case this comes up, I want to make sure you know how to do it. So what you do is you take the square root of it. So what is the square root of 81? 9. So you put 9 right here. And then the square root of y to the 4th, you just take half that number. What's half of 4? 2. So it's y squared and y squared. And then what's the square root of 1? 1. And then you just do 1's minus 1's plus. Doesn't matter which order. That's remember Elijah was asking that. Doesn't matter if you put plus versus minus first. Doesn't matter. But we can see that none of these answers are here. So they want us to go and do it again because right here, this is another difference of perfect squares, right? So its difference means subtraction. This one's adding, so I can't do it. So let's take the square root. We get 3 and 3. And half of 2 is just 1y. And what's 1? Square root of 1? 1. 1 plus 1 minus. So now I can cross this out because I don't need to use it anymore. So which one includes all 3 of those? I picked C at the beginning, and it would stink if I went through all that work and I picked B because it said 9y instead of 9y squared. So be careful. Because when I first did the answer key, I picked B. Does that make sense? I don't know if this is from 6th, 7th grade right here, but in case you don't remember it, how do you get x by itself? multiply 5. Does the sign flip?
No.
And so is x smaller than or larger than?
Smaller.
Smaller, right? Because the mouth is eating 5, that means x is less than or equal to 5. So that means less. Less than is always to the left. So which one's not going to the left? A is going to the right. And then see how this has a line underneath it? It's a closed circle and a solid line. Closed circle and solid line. If it doesn't have it, it's open circle and dotted line. So which one's our answer? I think there will be more of these. This will be today's lesson too. So this is something. Because in the original equation, this one right here has a line underneath it. So if it has a line, it's solid, and it's a solid circle. Okay. All right, it takes Gloria 3 hours to rake her leaves in her yard. Gloria rakes the leaves 4 times each fall for 5 years. So 3 hours, 4 times 5 years, we end up getting 6 years. Don't think too hard. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, next one. So it says the length of a line segment. This one, I just drew a picture. So 2 is your x, so I went to the right 2, up 3. I drew a dot, and then I went -5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 3. And so they want to know the length of that line. How long is it? 7.
Good morning, Ms. Crumpman.
Good morning.
Can I have Camille Allen for this letter, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, next one. What do I do here? What do I do here? Distribute. What's 3j times j? 3j squared. 3j times 4? Say what? 3j times 3 times j squared? 3j squared. 3 times j? 3j. And 3 times 5? 15. Then what do I do? Combine like terms. What's 3j squared plus 3j squared? At this point, which one has 6j squared? C. This one maybe combine like terms. What's 12j plus 3j? 15j. All right. Next one. First of all, is y by itself? Y by itself, right? What's a slope?
-1.
-1, right? Invisible 1. Which one's not a negative slope? And B, right? Because if I can even draw, here's Gabby right here. She's walking up the hill. Walking up means positive, right, Jordan? So yeah.
That's an A and B, right?
So we eliminated them because they're positive slopes. Then -3 is your y-intercept. So both of them have -3, but is y less than or greater than the equation? Less than, right? So less than would mean if I draw a person, it would be below their legs. So which one is it below their legs? To check your work, and don't do this the first time, or if you totally forget what to do, to check your work, you can literally take a point in the shaded region. So take like any point. So I could take -3, -2. And you can plug that point in up here and make sure it works. So I'll show you that real quick. So what's y in this point? -2 less than, what's my x? -3 minus 3. So negative 2 is less than or equal to, what's the opposite of negative 3? 3 minus 3. What's 3 minus 3? 0. Is 0 greater than or equal to negative 2?
Yes.
So we know that that number, that point is a solution. Because if we were to do one of these, it wouldn't make sense. Do you guys want me to show you one that wouldn't make sense? Okay, so if I did 0, 0, right? I plug in 0, 0. So 0 for x and 0 for y. I would end up getting 0 is less than or equal to negative 0 minus 3, which negative 0 is just 0 minus 3. What's 0 minus 3? Is 0 less than negative 3?
Oh.
No. So that number, that means that point couldn't be a solution, so that graph can't be right. I mean, you can do that with every one of them. That takes a moment. So plugging it in, at least for this class, should be a way to check your answers. Does that make sense? Okay. Next one. What do I do here? 6 for x. If it looked like this, f of x equals 6, that means plug it in for f of x. If it just says f of 6, it means instead of x, what do they want you to plug in? So be careful about the difference between those two. What's 6 minus 8? All right, this was one. Do you guys remember this type of question? It was on your open-ended from your previous. So this is another one where we're, see how it says line of best fit? You're gonna have to use this right here. So stat edit L1, put that in L1, that in L2. But do I include this point? No. So don't include this point. You guys want to try it real quick?
Yes.
Why don't you go get a calculator? I want to make sure you guys remember how to do it. So when you end up getting it, you get something that looks like this, right? R squared, R, A, and B, right?
Oh, wait, no.
Like, what would your R refer to? Whatever that number is. Correlation coefficient. So correlation coefficient's not what we're doing though. It's your slope, because they want the line of best fit, they want you to have the slope and the y-intercept. And so that's what should be on your calculator when you put it in. So let's write the equation. Y equals 50.22 x minus 8.7. Now the question wants you to find what this missing value is. So what are you going to plug in for x? 5. So you're literally going to plug in your calculator 50.22. Instead of x, you're going to put 5 minus 8.7. And then
you get to R2?
oh, this is, I'm just showing you what it means. You have to turn the diagnostic on. But you don't need that right now. I can show you that after class. When you do this, you end up getting 242 when you plug it in. Does that make sense? Okay. These are a lot of questions, so I gotta move. All right, what are some things that I could do here? What are some things I could do here? Find the slope. What else? Because let's get it together, guys. I will give you a break at 22. So we're almost there. 22, I'll give you a break. So, guys. I broke 22, I'll give you a break. 22. We're on number 18. So, see how it says the relationship is linear? That's how I know I'm finding the equation. You can also use stat edit, the thing you just did, and find your slope and y-intercept. So if you want to do that, you can put the L1, 2, and 5, L2, you can put these, and you should find the equation. What could you also do with your table? Plug it in. I could figure out when I plug in 2, which one would give me 110,000. But don't go with the first one that's correct. You want to make sure you try it to each one, because sometimes it'll work for 2 and you have to try the next one. But let's figure out the slope first. From here to here, these are your y's, right? So you're changing y. What's being added? 150,000. And so from 2 to 5, what's being added? 3. What is 3 divided by 150,000? 50,000. So which ones can we eliminate that do not have a slope?
I think the answer is
So right away we can eliminate these two. Then I think the easiest way to do it, you could sit there and find the equation, which you do need to know how to do because it could be an open-ended, right? Guys, get off your devices. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Almost halfway. So, let's just plug one in. Let's plug in 2. So when I plug in 2 for these x's, I should get what answer? What answer should I get? 110. So let's try this. What's 100,000 times, or 50,000 times 2? 100,000 plus 5,000? 105,000. Is this the answer? No, because it should be 110. When you do it in here, you get about 50,000 times 2, guys, is what? 100,000
plus 2 is 100.
So what's your answer? Thank you. Does that make sense? Alright. Is y by itself? Yes, so what's the slope? 2. Which one? So is it positive or negative? Positive, so it should be going up or down. So which one's not going up? Well, A is going down. And C. Then what's your y-intercept? -1. So which one has a y-intercept of -1? B. And so we know because it's -1, we go up 2 over 1. This is unit 2A. This is what we're going over today during class. This sort of class. All right, this right here, multiplying polynomials. I'm going to do box method. How many are in the first one? How many terms are in the first? 3. I'm going to draw 3. Not 3 lines, so I'm going to make 3 factors. How many are in the second one? I'm going to split this one into 2. And then I'm just going to write the equations at the top. So 4x cubed plus 6x squared plus 2. And then 3x squared plus 2.
1 plus 6.
Sorry, minus. What happened? That's 6x. Cool. And so when you're multiplying, do we add the exponents? Yes. When you're adding, do you add the exponents? Yeah. So what's 3x squared times 4x cubed? 12x to the 5th. Beautiful. What's 6 times 3? 18. And 2 times 3x? 6x squared. Now let's go down here. -2 times 4x cubed. -8x to the 3rd power. Group over there, I'm almost done. Can you please focus? 6x squared times -2. -12x squared. And then the last one's 2 times -2. 2 times -2, -4. Then I just combine my like terms. And I color coded it for you already, so the only 2 you can combine are which 2?
-12.
Yeah, so you have 12x to the 5th. Then plus, remember you gotta go in order, plus 18x to the 4th, and already there's only one that has this combination, which is what? Minus 8x cubed. Minus 6x squared. Minus. Does that make sense? Alright, next one is the one you can do a million different things. Mason, what's one thing I can do to solve this? Plug it in. So the important thing, and that should be your last result, right? Because that takes the longest. So if you're going to plug it in, and not say I'm trying 3, you need to make sure to put parentheses around every x that you're going to do. If you don't, it's going to be incorrect. So let's try 3, for example. If I put 3 in, what is 3 squared? 9. And then what do they want me to do? Make it, yep, it's like that invisible 1. So I have -1 plus 3 plus 6. What is 6 plus 3? What's 6 plus 9? Yep, so what's -9 plus 9? 0. And they want us to find our zeros, so would 3 be a solution? Yeah, so you can cross out these 2, but these both have 3. So you would have to try either 2 or -2. That's one way. Another way, you can go into your calculator, go into y equals, type the equation, and on our table, what should the y value be to find your zeros? Yep, so when your y is 0, you would know that those are solutions. You can also use the quadratic formula. That is given to you on your test. Make sure you practice, remember that math, and you turn it into a fraction. Make sure you remember how to put that fraction bar up so you can plug it right into your quadratic formula. You can also use that. The easiest way, I think, is to factor it. But first, what number is it? What is in front of the x squared? -1. I need it to be x squared. So how do I make that into a positive? What do I have to divide by? -1. So that's going to go right here. I get x squared minus 1x minus 6. Then remember, factoring means the ACB. So remember, I'm showing you, you don't have to use every way. That's why I'm harping on that. So Alana Tux doesn't need to do this and that one and do it on the calculator. Do one method, and then when you're checking, you use another method. So your A is 1 and your C is -6. So we're saying what multiplies to -6 but adds to -1? 3 and 2, and since we're adding to a negative, the bigger one's negative. So which one should be negative? 3. Ding, ding, ding. So your factors would be x minus 3, x plus 2. What's the relationship between your x-intercept and your factors? The opposite. So what's your answers? X equals 3 and x equals -2. So remember, you could do any way. Just make sure that you know how to do each way, because some of the open-ended, tomorrow's a Saturday session from 10 to 12. We'll be going over the open-ended.
You said 22.
No, question 22.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, last one. Sounds good for you. So this one is like the same thing. First of all, this is an Algebra 2 lesson, but again, I want to make sure to overly prepare you. So first, is there a number that can go into either of these? No, but what do you notice this trick is? What did we go over earlier? Remember, I said the difference of something.
You have to simplify it.
How do you do that now? It's the difference of
Square root.
difference of perfect squares. So you take the square root. What's the square root of 9?
3.
And what's half of 4?
2.
2. And then remember, 1 plus 1 minus. What's square root of 25? 4. Now let's do the bottom one. Is there a number that can go into 6 and 10? 2. Let's divide 2 out. Remember, 2 always goes in front of the parentheses. And what do I end up getting? 3x squared.
Plus 5.
Beautiful. Now remember, each of these things, these are each like a letter basically, right? So I can only cross something out if it's exact, they're all being multiplied, and the same thing on the numerator is on the denominator. Which one could I cross out? 3x plus 5 can cross out. And so what's your answer?
3x squared minus 5.
Does that make sense? All right, so the next one says, what is the best way to display favorite subjects? So would listing all 400 names and their subjects, would that do much for me? No. A circle graph. We haven't even learned about a circle graph here. A line graph, we haven't really learned about that. A bar graph is categories. So categories are the different subjects, right? So math, science. So which one would be the best one to use? Bar graph. And so most likely on your test, it's going to be probably the ones that we've been going over. So behind Jordan and Taylor's 2A frequency tables, dot plot, histogram. So if those things are what you need a refresher on, that's Unit 5. That will be on Thursday. During Flex, we'll be going over that. All right, next one. So if they have the same radical, can I subtract these now?
Yes.
Yep, so what's 11 minus 10? And do I subtract the radical? Nope. So which one shows me 1 radical 11? D, because that one is invisible. multiplying, we just did multiplying when we rationalized the denominator. Remember, we multiply the outside, what's 3 times 4? And multiply the inside, what's 4 times 5? And then we split it up. What goes into 20? 4 and 5. What goes into 4? 2 and 2. So who's already at prom? 12. And then who's joining 12? 2. And who's in the crib chilling? 5. So what do we get? So we went over that yesterday. So if you weren't able to come, that session's already on YouTube on my Google Class. All right, next one. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And so I want to get B by itself. So how do I get A squared to the other side?
Minus 2A.
Minus A squared.
Yeah.
And so you end up getting B squared equals C squared minus A squared.
But you have to.
Then how do I get rid of square? Square root or radical. So what's your answer? B. That makes sense? So how do I know what domain is? What is domain? X, right? So first of all, if they're talking about domain, and notice they gave you the range answers and they're correct, but make sure you focus on what's the question asking. Which ones could I cross out that don't even have an X in there? Then here's my y-axis, right? So what's the smallest X there is? This one's actually -2. And what's this one? 4. So what's your answer? And so remember, domain is side to side, range is up and down. And I remember D comes first in the alphabet before R, and X comes before Y, so my domain is my X. This one, adding polynomials, you can either put that invisible one there, but it doesn't really matter because anything times 1 is that same number. So let's we could just drop the parentheses and combine your like terms. So what's 5 plus 4? 9x squared. Notice they wanted to trick you and they're like, oh, they're gonna think that's a minus sign. And they're gonna put 1x squared. So already, which ones can we eliminate? A and B. Then next is -2x plus 1x. -1x. So at this point, we know it's not -3. And so every math error that can be done is an answer choice, as you can see. So just be careful with your math. Does that make sense? All right, what can we do with our answer choices here if you totally forget what to do? Plug it in, but see how the X and Y are on the same side? Elimination is the one, and we'll be going over 2B as elimination. So on Monday during clubs, if that's one you forgot about system of equations, make sure you sign up for that. And tomorrow during Saturday, we're going to be going over most of your open-ended in the past or system of equations. So you are going to need to probably know how to go about doing it. So remember, elimination is we want to get two variables that have the same coefficient but different signs. So Kaylin, let me see your beautiful face. Beautiful. So what do we have to do to get this to be the same number, different sign? Or which one has that here? We don't have to do anything. Yeah, see how these, I don't even need to do anything. And so what can I do to 2x and -2x to make it disappear? Add them, right? Because minus would be minus and negative would be adding. So this would cross out. What is 3 plus 5? And 8 plus 16? 24. Cool. Now what do I do? And what do you get? 3. So which one can I eliminate off the bat?
D and
Just D, right? Because all the rest have 3 as y's. Now, what do? I plug it back in to get my y. Does it matter which one I plug it in for? No. So I'm going to just plug it into the top. So now, what is 3 times 3? 9. How do I get x by itself? I get 2x equals what? Then what do? And what you get x equals -1/2. So what's your answer? So remember, you could do the plug it in. That takes longer, A, and B. there's sometimes they're gonna be like, okay, what's the x coordinate that makes this, what's the x coordinate of your solution? So you gotta be careful, you probably will need to at least do this, but when they give you answer choices and you forget, you can always plug them in. Okay, this is the same thing as the last one, but of course, I looked at this real quick and I thought it was a minus sign, and when I first did it, I put the wrong answer, and my class yesterday had to go correct me. So, be careful, even easy as this, I raced through it. So, what's 13 and then plus, so I don't have to do anything? 13 plus negative 5? Yeah, 8x squared, and at first I got 18, because I subtracted a negative. So 8x squared, which one's going to get rid of automatically? A and C. A and C. Then I do 18x plus 16x, positive 34x. So which is your answer? B. So remember, as soon as you get the answer, just make sure you click on it and move on to the next one. Don't check, if you want to check it, flag it. But the biggest thing I see is people just running out of time. What happened? D. It's just positive 16 plus 18. This is if you were to subtract them. Okay, if it did, then I might have messed up. Like I tried to correct the answer, and so some of them. That's why I don't care about your scores on that sheet. I care more about you seeing what you know, what you don't. Okay, I have 3 pieces of land that add up to what altogether? 6.5. So let's freeze. Which ones don't add up to 6.5? A does.
B doesn't.
C. What? 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, not 6.5.
C doesn't.
C does. That's 7.5. So we're between these two. So they're saying that they're divided into 3 plots. So they're saying A is a third, 1/3 of the size of B. Then we got B, and then we got C is 3 times larger than B. So let's just look at our answers. Is 4 3 times larger than 2? No. It's 4.5 3 times larger than 1.5? Yeah. Does that make sense? All right. So remember our juju on that beat song. Plot the B, plot the B, plot the B. What's your B here? -2. So which one does not have -2s and y? A. What did they put here? -2 is your x-intercept. They're trying to trick you. We know better. What else doesn't have -2 as your y? B. That has +2. Then your slope is +1 over 3. So I'm going up 1 over 3. Right? So right here, if I go up 1 over 3, does that fall on the line? Yes. Yes. If I did it right here, this is actually 3 over 1. They're tricky with that because they're going to go, oh, they're going to think it's over 3, up 1. But you know better because this goes up 3 over 1. That slope would be 3. Does that make sense? Okay. So remember, it's rise over run.
Just the way you explained it.
Yeah, I realized I explained it wrong. If you went up 3 over 1 instead of up 1 over 3. So it's rise over run. So your slope is 1, 3, which means you're going up 1 over 3. So which one goes up 1 over 3? This one does. This one doesn't go up 1 over 3. It goes up 3 over 1. That slope would be 3 over 1. That's not correct. This one, what do I do with -8? Plug it in, right? Because it's telling me instead of x, they want me to use -8. What do I end up getting? What type of correlation is this? Negative. So as x is increasing, what's happening to my y's? Decreasing. So as the people get older, the number of hours that they watch cartoons is going down, right? So which one explains that? D, right? The older the person is, the more years they are, the less they watch cartoons. Outlier. Remember that song that I did? Skewed to the left, skewed to the right. Median. Median. That means when you have an outlier and they're asking for the center, we're going to go over this tomorrow too, and it's Unit 5, this is part of it. That means if you use a median, it's not affected. But if adding an outlier to a set, does it affect the median? No, that's why we would use it to find the center of our data. But if you add an outlier, say Kaylin had 100 in here, and she bombed a test, right? She got a 20. Oh, what would that do to her average? Bring it down, right? So which one means average? Mean. So it significantly increases or decreases her mean. So if she had a 30 and she got 100 on the test, it would bring her average up, right? So an outlier affects the mean. That's why we wouldn't use the mean as the center of this outlier. All right, this we haven't done in a while. So parallel. First of all, let's break that down. And let's make sure we're focused, because this one we haven't done in a while. What does parallel mean? Not touching. So there's no solution. Remember, when we have two parallel lines, we know there's no solution. So they'll never touch. What's the same? Same slope.
Oh.
Different y-intercept. Because they have different starting points. That's why in the same slope, so they'll never touch. So that's why this one we haven't gone over in a little while. So they want to figure out, first we need to find the equation at line. Then we need to figure out, okay, out of these four, which one gives me the same slope but a different y-intercept? And so first, let's figure that out. What's our y-intercept here? Yep, so our b is -1. And then your slope, if I'm using these 2 points, is up 2 over 1. So what is your slope? 2, or 2 over 1. So they're looking, here's my equation of this right here, or -1. So they're looking for one that has a slope of 2, but a different y-intercept. How could we find that out when these are in standard form? What letter, how do we move these around so that y is by itself? That's to get the y-intercept. But we don't need, first I want to get it in slope-intercept form. So remember, we haven't done this in a while. How do I get y by itself? It's the same thing as a literal equation. Subtract 1x on both sides. And so you end up getting -2y equals -1x plus 4. Is this coming back to you a little bit? It's okay. If it's not, then today and Monday, or we're going over this sort of stuff. Then how do you get y by itself? Divide by, don't drop that negative. And you end up getting y equals, what's a negative over a negative? Positive. 1/2 x minus 2. Do they have the same slope? 1/2 and 2, are they the same?
No.
Those numbers. No, one's 1/2 and one's 2. So we know that can't be our answer. The only thing different about this one is the y-intercept is probably going to be different. But we don't care if they don't have the same slope. That one can't be it either. So we know it has to be one of these. So let's try D. 2x minus y equals 4. What should I put next to y? 1. So how do I get y by itself? First, let's subtract 2x. And don't drop that negative. -1y equals -2x plus 4. Then what do I do? Yes. And you get y equals 2x minus 4. Now, do they have the same slope, different y-intercepts? Yeah. And the first time I did this, the first time I was doing this by myself and I made the answer key, I wanted to try to be slick and do it in my head. So I was like, I don't need paper for this. And I ended up getting the wrong answer, and my class yesterday had to correct me. So make sure you take the time. Yeah, you know, trying to be an all-star here. But make sure you take the time to write it out and go through each step instead of trying to do it in your head. That's like me. I make mistakes. All right. This one, you can plug these into your calculator and figure out which one looks like that on the graph. Or we know, first of all, is this a negative Nancy or a positive Patricia? Look at her, frowning. She's so sad, right? Which ones don't have a leading coefficient that's negative? A and C, right? That's the one that's in front. Then what's our y-intercept? 0. Which one has a y-intercept of 0?
G.
You could also always take a point from here, so like that's why they give you this point right here, and plug that point in. So this would be 1 comma negative 2. You could plug in 1 for x, and your y should be negative 2. So when you're checking your work, that's always something you can do. All right, this one. We distribute. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. So we distribute right here, and you get 6a plus 12b minus 9c. Then what should I distribute here? Negative 4. Don't drop that negative, because they have that wrong answer if you forget to do it. Negative 4a plus 8b minus 20c. Then you combine like terms. So what's 6a plus negative 4a? 2a. So which 2 can I eliminate off the bat? A and C. And then I had 12b plus 8b. It's 20b. So what's my answer? D. Because that one doesn't have the same sign. And then if I wanted to continue, negative 9, negative 20 is negative 20. Almost done. Okay, this took me a while. It actually took me a couple days to figure this out. I didn't really spend a lot of time. I was doing it during that, when you guys had that SGA day of play. So I couldn't really figure it out now. Yeah, that's what I was doing. So, what's the pattern?
Yeah. 1, 2, like, well,
It's 16, 25 plus 9, and then 25 to 36. Yeah.
Kind of. But there's like a different way. Morgan, do you get it?
I was so each one was the square, so 16 plus 4.
Yeah, they're all perfect squares. You might have got the same answer.
I got it.
Because those squares, they're also like patterns. So, they're for A. So, May, I would do 8 squared. What's 8 squared? 6. So, which one can I eliminate? C. Then they want to know August. So, what comes after May? June. Then July. Then August. Beautiful. So, we have 9 squared for June, 10 squared for July, 11 squared for August. So, what is 11 squared? 124. So, B. I did. You got the same answer. Because there's patterns between.
I was practicing. I thought those were all.
Those are all what?
But they were all programmed.
I actually thought it was
My time was 64,000.
64,100. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was weird. Then as x increases, what's happening?
The Y is increasing.
So if it's a positive slope, as the x is getting bigger, the y is getting bigger.
So
If it was decreasing, as the x gets bigger, the y gets smaller.
what's that 1 point, like, the third point?
Y remains equivalent to 1. That means
Oh,
all.
the third point that's on the graph. 8, the one outlier.
This one right here. This outlier. They're just saying like, what is expected to occur. So it's just like, what trend is going on?
Outliers.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just like, what's the prediction? Okay, this question was completely wrong. I don't know who came up with this question.
But it was.
Yeah, and don't even pay attention if you got that one wrong. Because first of all, what's the y-intercept? 46. What's the slope? Negative 32. So if it's a line, that means is it going down or up? Down. It's going down 32 feet per second. So I guess throw down at 32 feet per second. That's the only thing I could think of, but you're going to have nothing this big on your test. This was incorrectly written and incorrect. So
It looked like it was deeper.
Yeah, but this was when t equals 1, and that would be when t equals 0. Alright, 2 more multiple choice. So, first, is there a number that goes into all 3? Number 3. So what, remember, that number goes in the front. So which one can I cross out all of them? These 2, right? So now I need to remember how to factor. Because now I have 10x squared plus 3x minus 4. You guys are going to need to know how to factor when a is greater than 1. So what is a? 10. What's b? 3. What's c? 4. Remember, factoring is the ACB. They're never going to say ACB. You just need to know that factoring is ACB. So what is 10 times negative 4? And what are you adding to? 3. Cool. So what 2 numbers multiply to negative 40 to add to 3? 8 and 5. But which one has to be negative? Ding, ding, ding. Now, I rewrite this like this. X plus 8, x minus 5. But what is your a? 3. Oh, and so remember, you need to put 10 underneath both of them. But even if you didn't go through all this and it's multiple choice, one answer has to be addition and one has to be subtraction. So these 2 have subtraction, right? So we know automatically this is got to be our answer.
So you did all that work.
Well, you needed to see that right here. But let me continue. So, first, is there a fraction? How can I reduce this fraction? Divide by 2. So what is 8 divided by 2? 4. And 10 divided by 2? And then, how can I reduce this? Yep. So I have x minus 1 over 2. Now, we still got those little losers right here. Look at them hanging alone, right? They're trying so hard, but who do they need to go hang out with? Yes, they gotta go hang out with mom. So we end up getting 5x plus 4 and 2x minus 1. And that 3 goes.
You just lost me.
Which part? Did you get this? Did you get this part?
Yes.
Did you get this part?
No.
Did you get why I put 10 under both of them?
No.
Okay, so what the A is. So when the A is greater than 1, you have to put that underneath. You haven't had to do that because your A has been less than 1. Or sorry, your A has been 1 if there's no coefficient. So since your A is 10, I put 10 underneath them. Then you either divide or reduce. So in this case, we reduce these fractions. So that fraction reduced to 4/5, and this fraction reduced to 1/2. But we still got those losers hanging out on the ends. We can't reduce it anymore, so we just put them in front of x, so it looks like this. And then that's your answer. And so when they're asking for factors or your answers are in parentheses like that, that's what you're doing. Okay, last one is a one-step equation. How do I get z by itself? Add 17. So what does z equal? 20. All right, real quick, I want to try to go for the open-ended. And so this is not probably an open-ended you would get, but I want to make sure this is not an open-ended you would get because this wasn't even really a lesson in Algebra 1, but I want to make sure you understand it. So this was actually your first multiple choice question on pre-test 2. Guys, one more question, I promise. So see how these are being added? You can't just cross things out when they're being added. So I need to separate them into 2 different fractions. So they look like this. And then you're able to cross out things. So you're not able to cross things out when it's like this. So when they do this, they separated 32 into 4 and radical 8. Whoa. Which is a weird way they did it. And then they did 16 into 4 and 4 and radical 8. And that way they're able to cross these out. Yeah, so it's a lot of extra work. But the mistake he did is that he didn't separate that first part into 2 different fractions. And then you would have to simplify and reduce. You are not going to get an open-ended like this, I promise. But just so you guys know how to go about this, this is an Algebra 2 lesson again. but you'd have to separate these into two different fractions. So it looked like this. And then you would reduce it. So what multiplies to 32? 8 and 4. What multiplies to 8? 2 and 4. What multiplies to 4? 2 and 2. And this 4 is 2 and 2. And so you end up getting, these two are going to prom, so 2 times 2. And then that 2 is a loner, so you get 4 radical 2 over radical 8. Then what is the square root of 16? 4. So you get plus 4 radical 8. And then you would have to rationalize the denominator. You're not going to have to do any of it. Okay, so I just wanted to show you just in case.
What would you get?